Thomas Tuchel named his 35-man England squad in the last international break. What we're going to do in this video is whittle that down to a 26-man England squad that I think he'll pick for the World Cup. Okay, as you can see on screen, I've got all of the players. I've actually got 40 players on here because there were some players that were injured, like a Reece James is in here that didn't make the 35-man squad. A couple of other players that he may consider, a couple that dropped out, so the likes of Barnes came in, for example. What we're going to do is get this 40-man squad down to 26 men. And I'm not going to do this based on what I think the squad should be, because I've done a video on that. I'll probably do another one nearer the World Cup as well. What I'm going to do here is whittle this down to what I think Thomas Tuchel's going to pick, because they're two very different things, unfortunately. So what we're going to do is start off in goal. And he mentioned that he wants to take 4 goalkeepers. I don't get this at all. It makes no sense to me. He wanted one goalkeeper as, I think he mentioned it was like a penalty specialist, so that the forwards or the outfield players could practice penalties against them or something like that. I don't know why the third keeper can't do that realistically, but he mentioned Steele as that player. Of all these 5 keepers, I think the one that's going to drop out is Ramsdale. So we'll get rid of him. I don't think Ramsdale's been good enough. I think Pickford and Henderson are definitely 1 and 2. Definitely the 2 best goalkeepers. I think Trafford has shown enough in the minutes that he's got for Man City this season. And I think he could be the future England goalkeeper after Pickford. Maybe Rushworth is that. Who knows? But I definitely think that if he's going to take 4 goalkeepers, it's these 4. He picked Steele for a reason. Again, Steele, I don't get it because he hasn't played any minutes. And I don't know what makes him think that he is this penalty saving expert, or who knows what he's thinking with that. But I've got rid of Ramsdale here because I really just can't see that happening at this point. Another player that I just cannot see going at this point is Trent, unfortunately. We're going to get rid of him. I would absolutely take Trent. I think he showed in the first leg of the Real Madrid versus Bayern Munich tie just how important he can be to the team he plays for. Creatively, the ball across that he played, there are only a handful of players in the world that can play that cross as well as he did. I think there just is enough that he gives to be able to take him, but he didn't make the 35-man squad, which suggests to me that he just won't be going at all. One other player that I'm going to get rid of here is James Garner. I just think it's come too late for him, unfortunately. I do think that in the minutes he got in the international break, he was actually really good. I thought he performed really well in those minutes. But I just think it's come a bit too soon. If the World Cup was next year, there'd absolutely be a case for him going, but I just cannot see it at this point. And another player we're going to get rid of is Harvey Barnes here. He was only called up because, I can't remember who it was. Was it Eze that dropped out potentially? Not sure who it was, but he only got called up because a player dropped out, and I just cannot see him actually making a 26-man squad at this point. I think the wingers are the 5 wingers we've got here. If it goes down to 4, then one of those right wingers drops out. I think Rashford and Gordon are just these left wingers now. And one other player I can't see making it at this point is Ollie Watkins. Again, I think he would have had to have been in that 35-man squad to be able to get into a World Cup squad. And again, that didn't happen. So I can't see him making it. I don't think he's had a good enough season either. I like that Thomas Tuchel didn't pick him because for me, and I mentioned this in another video, I think if Kane gets injured, then you can play a Rashford, you can play a Gordon up there, who has very similar traits when they're playing as a number 9 to Ollie Watkins, whereas these other guys, a Solanke, a Calvert-Lewin, are slightly more different to an Ollie Watkins type of player, to a Rashford Gordon in the number 9. So I like that he didn't pick Watkins, and I hope that we do get to see 1 or 2 of Calvert-Lewin and Solanke go. And another player that we're going to get rid of off the rip is Phil Foden. Now this is quite a big one, I guess, in that maybe people would expect him to go, maybe not so much anymore, but I think he would have needed to have taken one of the chances that he got in the most recent international break. He obviously started the first game in a number 10 role, didn't offer much at all. Cole Palmer was better when he came on and played there, albeit Cole Palmer wasn't exactly great there. And then he started the second game against Japan as like a false 9, number 9, and again, I don't think that worked at all. I really don't think it worked. He wasn't very good. So I think he would have needed to have performed in one of those games for him to go, and he didn't, so I don't think he goes. Okay, we're down to 34 players already, meaning that we've got to get rid of 8 players. So I'm going to get rid of another one of these number 10s. We know that Thomas Tuchel absolutely loves Rodgers, and we've realised now how important Bellingham is. Bellingham just will be in the squad. So it's between Palmer and Eze. For me, I think he takes Palmer over Eze. I don't think that Eze's done too much to warrant his place at this point. I think that Palmer also hasn't done a lot. He wasn't as bad when he came on in the international break as Foden was. So I think if he's going to take 3 number 10s, I think it's these 3. Now, onto that centre midfielder role as well. And I think that he only takes 4 of these. I think Rice is a definite, and I also think Wharton and Anderson definitely go. So I think it's between Mainu and Henderson. And for me, I would say he probably takes Henderson for the experience. I don't think that role or that spot will actually play much football, whether it was Mainu, whether it was Garner, whether it's Henderson. I think that Rice, Wharton and Anderson will play the bulk of the minutes in those 2 centre midfield roles. We may even see Bellingham there against some teams where they might set up in a low block against us, where you could play Rice, Bellingham and a Rodgers or Palmer potentially. But I don't think that Mainu or Henderson spot is going to play a lot of minutes, to be honest. And then the next player we'll get rid of is one of these forwards, because I think he only goes with one of Solanke or Calvert-Lewin. I personally don't think he takes both, and that for me is because we've seen Anthony Gordon play as a number 9 quite a lot recently for Newcastle, and he's been pretty good there. We know that Rashford can do it as well. So I think if Kane gets injured, maybe one of those 2 starts there. Out of the 2 of Solanke and Calvert-Lewin, I've said before that I think this should be Dominic Calvert-Lewin. I think that the situations that could arise where we're 0-0 in a game, we're 1-0 down in a game, and we need to bring a forward on to get a goal, in those situations, inevitably what will happen is that we'll get the ball wide and spam crosses into the box. And Calvert-Lewin has been feeding off of that for Leeds this season. So I think he's perfect for that. However, I do think he probably takes Solanke instead. I think Solanke as a striker is more complete and offers you a little bit more. And I think that Thomas Tuchel just likes Solanke. And I think that showed in the amount of minutes that he got in the recent international break. So I think Kane and Solanke will be the 2 strikers that Thomas Tuchel takes. Okay, I've purposely left these centre-backs until somewhat near the end, because I think this is one of the most difficult spots to kind of predict Tuchel on. There's 7 centre-backs here. I think he only takes 4 to the World Cup. And the reason that I think this is difficult is because he actually seems to quite like all of them, apart from Maguire actually. He said that Maguire is genuinely behind some other centre-backs here. And I thought that Burn would be lower in the pile. But the one thing that is making me think that Burn will just go to the World Cup is that Thomas Tuchel gave 11 players a bit of rest, a bit of time off from the international break. As in, he picked his squad and 11 players were going to get a bit of a break and join a bit later. Those 11 players, Dean Henderson, Ezri Konsa, Mark Gahey, Dan Burn, Elliot Anderson, Nico O'Reilly, Declan Rice, Morgan Rogers, Harry Kane, Bukayo Saka and Anthony Gordon. Now, every single one of those players, besides Burn, you would say is pretty nailed to be in the squad at this point. Dean Henderson will definitely be in there. Konsa Gahey will definitely be in the squad. Elliot Anderson, definitely. O'Reilly, Rice, Rogers, Kane, Gordon, Saka, all of those are pretty no-brainers to be in the squad. But Dan Burn was included in it as well. And there were some players who still got called up and are part of these teams that needed a break or had an intense club season, for example. Like, he still called up Harvey Barnes, as an example. There are a few players that he still called up, even though they had an intense kind of period of games. So this is why I found it quite interesting that Burn was included in that list, and that makes me think he goes. For me, I wouldn't be taking Burn. Not a chance I'd be taking Dan Burn over some of these other guys, but I do think that he maybe will. So Konsa, Gahey, Burn are 3 of the 4. That leaves 1 of Stones, Tomori, Quansah, Maguire. Unfortunately, I don't think John Stones is going to play enough football between now and the World Cup to get picked, so I'm going to leave him out of here. I think if he was playing regularly for Man City, then he'd definitely be in this squad because he is an unbelievable centre-back. And Tuchel has mentioned that Maguire is lower down this list than some of the other players, which makes me think that he probably won't actually go. For me, I think that Maguire and Stones would be the two that I'd take, as well as Gehi and Konsa. But I just don't see that Thomas Tuchel will do that. I think he will take Burn, and I think he'll take one of Tomori and Konsa, and I think it will be Konsa. He did give Tomori some minutes, obviously, in the most recent international break, but I think he really likes Konsa. So I think these are probably the four that go, although this is the most difficult spot, I think, to predict Tuchel on, because Tomori, Maguire, Stones, those three being left out seems crazy. But Konsa and Burn, he seems to absolutely love. So this is where I've gone for now. Right, we're down to just 28 players now, meaning that only 2 have to go. And this is where it gets really difficult, especially because of this fourth goalkeeper situation. I think it would be much easier if this fourth goalkeeper wasn't a thing. Now, the 2 spots that I can see going here are one of the fullbacks, because we've got O'Reilly and Hall, which I'd say are definitely going. We've got Reece James, who, if he's fit, he's definitely going. So I think one of Spence, White and Livramento won't go. And to me, Livramento and Spence offer very similar things. They're both good going forward and defensively. They can both play right back and left back. So I think he probably only takes one of Spence and Livramento, because Ben White, he gave quite a lot of minutes to in the most recent international break. And he played him at centre-back when he came on in the first game, and then at right back when he started in the second game. So I think his versatility is going to be really useful, especially given the lack of centre-backs we're taking. We're taking 4 centre-backs, probably, if I've kind of predicted this correctly. And there is a world where if Gehi or Konsa get injured, then Ben White can quite easily slot into that right centre-back role. So I think he actually probably does take Ben White at this point. And I think one of Spence or Livramento drop out. And for me, that's probably Spence. That one's so close that I'm not sure who that would actually be. It could be Livramento, it could be Spence. Who knows at this point? So we just got one player left now. And I think that if this fourth goalkeeper wasn't a thing, then this is the squad that he'd take minus Steele. But I'm going to have to leave Steele in here, because at this point, I think that Thomas Tuchel will take this fourth goalkeeper, even though I think it's so stupid. So, like I say, I would be getting rid of Steele here. But I think he has to get rid of one of Madueke or Bowen if he wants to take this fourth goalkeeper spot. And I think this one's so difficult because Thomas Tuchel quite likes Bowen. He gives Bowen a lot of minutes. Bowen has played on the left for England as well. In not the most recent international break, but the one before, he actually played as a left winger. And in one of West Ham's recent games, the FA Cup game against Leeds, Bowen also started on the left and wasn't bad there. Obviously, his best position is on the right, but he did start on the left with Adama Traore on the right, and it did work for the most part. So maybe his versatility helps him here, because Madueke, I don't think, is as good on the left as Bowen would be. If I was choosing this, and I'm a West Ham fan, so you would think I'm probably biased on this, but I would actually take Madueke over Bowen personally. I think that every time Madueke plays for England, he gets on the ball and tries to make something happen. He's fearless. He is so on the front foot. Even in the first half an hour or however long he was on the pitch for against Uruguay, I thought he was really good. And Bowen just doesn't take his chances for England. He's not as good or not as effective in an England shirt as he is in a West Ham shirt. So I would take Madueke personally. And I do probably think that Tuchel will do the same thing. I just can't really see him not taking Madueke. Like I say, I'd take both of them and get rid of this fourth goalkeeper spot, which seems silly to me. But this is what I think Tuchel will do. So this is the 26-man squad that I think Thomas Tuchel will take to the World Cup. Who knows what we'll see between now and then. I do think the centre-back position is so up for grabs. I still think that Madueke and Bowen is close as well. Maybe we see Eze, maybe we see Foden, maybe we see Dominic Calvert-Lewin. Who knows? But this is what I think Thomas Tuchel will do. Let me know what you think in the comments. Let me know what you think Thomas Tuchel will do with the centre-backs, with the centre midfielders, with the right wingers, Madueke and Bowen. But that's all for this one. If you liked the video, make sure you hit like, make sure you subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.